If your debt feels like a prison with no key, stop praying the same prayer. Because heaven doesn't respond to repetition. It responds to alignment. I'm Rabbi Shimon. I'm 83 years old. And what I'm about to share with you today, I was forbidden to teach for 40 years. Not by law, by tradition. Because this knowledge, when misused, when treated like a lottery ticket, when approached with greed instead of reverence, it backfires. But I've watched too many good people suffer in silence. Too many faithful souls crushed under interest rates and collection calls. So today, I break the silence. 33 days. That's the timeline embedded in the Hebrew letters themselves. Not 32, not 35, 33. And if you stay with me for the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly why that number isn't symbolic. It's structural. It's written into the fabric of how abundance flows from the invisible world into your bank account. But first, I need you to do something. If this message is reaching you right now, it's not an accident. So before we go further, hit that like button. Not for me, for the algorithm that brought you here. Because someone else in your exact situation needs to find this video tonight. And your like tells YouTube to show it to them. Subscribe if you haven't. And when I give you the declaration phrase later, you're going to type it in the comments. Because when you write it, you activate it. That's how this works. Now let me tell you what happened 3 months ago. A woman walked into my study, 72 years old, widow, living on a fixed income that stopped being enough 5 years ago. Credit card debt, $23,000. Medical bills, another $11,000. And every month she paid the minimums and watched the balances grow. She told me she'd prayed every prayer she knew. She'd given tzedakah even when she had nothing to give. She'd asked her pastor, her friends, her financial advisor. Nothing moved. And then she said something that broke my heart. She said, "Rabbi, I think God forgot about me." I looked at her, and I said, "God didn't forget you. You forgot the language He listens to." She stared at me, confused, offended maybe. So I opened the Book of Kings, 2 Kings, chapter 4, and I read her the story she'd heard 100 times but never understood. There's a widow. Her husband, a prophet, dies. And immediately the creditor comes, not to collect furniture, not to take her house, to take her 2 sons as slaves. That was the law. That was the consequence of unpaid debt. And she's standing there, paralyzed. No money, no options, no one to call. She goes to the prophet Elisha. And listen carefully to what she says. She doesn't say, "I need a miracle." She doesn't say, "Pray for me." She says, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves." Elisha asks her one question. "What do you have in your house?" She says, "Nothing, except a small jar of olive oil." He tells her to go ask all her neighbors for empty jars, not 1 or 2, as many as she can find. Then go inside, close the door, pour the oil. So she does. She collects jars from every house on the street. She goes inside with her sons. She closes the door, and she starts pouring. 1 jar fills, then another, then another. The oil doesn't stop until every jar in that room is full. Then it stops. Elisha tells her, "Go sell the oil, pay your debt, and you and your sons can live on what's left." Now here's what most people miss. Most preachers stop at the miracle. They say, "See, God provides." But they never explain the mechanics. They never explain why the oil multiplied, why it stopped exactly when the jars ran out, why it took closed doors and borrowed containers. They treat it like magic. It's not magic. It's Gematria. It's the mathematics of the Hebrew language. And when you understand the code, you stop begging for miracles. You start engineering them. Let me show you. The Hebrew word for oil is shemen, shin, mem, nun. The numerical value, because every Hebrew letter is also a number, is 390. Now watch this. The Hebrew word for debt is chov, chet, vav, bet. Numerical value, 16. The word for freedom is chofesh, chet, pei, shin. Numerical value, 388. You see it? Oil, 390, is 2 units higher than freedom, meaning oil doesn't just pay the debt, it exceeds it. It creates surplus. That's why Elisha said, "Live on what's left." The formula isn't just cancellation, it's overflow. But here's the deeper layer. The oil didn't multiply in public. It multiplied behind closed doors. Why? Because the Hebrew word for secret is sod, samech vav daled. Numerical value, 70. And 70 is the number of nations, the number of completion in the physical world. When you close the door, you're shutting out the 70 voices of doubt, logic, fear, skepticism. You're creating a chamber where spiritual law supersedes natural law. That's not superstition. That's physics. Quantum physics tells us observation collapses possibility. The widow didn't let anyone observe until the miracle was finished. She protected the process. Now the jars. Why did it stop when the jars ran out? Because in Hebrew, the word for vessel is kli, kaf lamed yud. Numerical value, 60. And 60 represents the container of blessing. You can't receive what you haven't made space for. The widow's faith wasn't measured by her prayer. It was measured by how many jars she collected. Every jar she borrowed was a vote of expectation. And heaven matched her expectation exactly, not one drop more. Here's where it gets personal. That 72-year-old woman sitting in my study, I asked her the same question Elisha asked. "What do you have in your house?" She looked around. She said, "Nothing, just bills." I said, "No. What do you have that you haven't valued?" She thought. Then she remembered. A small savings account, $47, untouched, forgotten. I said, "That's your oil." She looked at me like I was senile. $47 against $34,000 in debt? I said, "It's not about the amount, it's about the seed." Every debt started with a single dollar. Every miracle starts the same way. I gave her the instructions, and I'm going to give them to you in a moment. But first, you need to understand the 33 days, because that's not a number I made up. It's encoded in the Torah. The word Baruch, blessed, appears 33 times in the first book of Moses. The divine name that governs Tzai provision, Elohim, has a numerical value that reduces to 33. And here's the key. Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer, is the only day in that 50-day period when mourning is suspended and weddings are allowed. Why? Because 33 is the tipping point. It's the day when the trajectory shifts from judgment to mercy, from lack to overflow, from debt to freedom. So when I told her 33 days, I wasn't guessing. I was reading the blueprint. Now let me tell you what happened. She followed every step. Day one, she took that $47 and she sanctified it. Not by spending it, by declaring over it. She wrote the amount on a piece of paper. She placed it in a bowl, and she spoke the verse from Malachi. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. Day two, she closed the door. Literally, she turned off her phone. She stopped talking about the debt. She stopped checking her credit card balances. She stopped rehearsing the problem. Because every time you speak the problem, you're pouring your oil back into the ground. Day 3 through 9, she collected jars. Not literal jars, opportunities. She asked her neighbor if she needed help with anything. She offered to babysit her grandson. She didn't charge, but the neighbor insisted on paying her $20. Jar number 1. She found a coat in her closet, still had the tags on. She sold it online. $35. Jar number 2. Small things, forgotten things, things she didn't know had value. Day 10, something shifted. She got a phone call. A medical bill she'd been paying on for 2 years. The hospital called to say there'd been a billing error. They'd overcharged her. Refund, $2,100. She wept. But I told her, don't stop. This isn't the miracle. This is the oil starting to flow. Day 18, she got a letter. A class action lawsuit she didn't even know she was part of. Settlement check, $873. Day 27, her son, who hadn't spoken to her in 3 years because of a family argument, called her. Out of nowhere. He said, "Mom, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to help you. What do you need?" She told him. He paid off $6,000 of her credit card debt. Just like that. Day 33. She walked into my study, and she showed me her bank statement. 0 balances on 2 cards. Payment plans on the rest that she could actually afford. And $1,200 left in her account. She said, "Rabbi, I still don't understand how this happened." I said, "You don't have to understand it. You just have to trust that the same God who multiplied oil in a jar 4,000 years ago hasn't changed his mathematics." But she's not the only one. Let me tell you about David. 68 years old, retired. Mortgage underwater, $43,000 in debt from a business that failed during the pandemic. He did the 33 days. Day 12, he got a job offer he didn't apply for. Day 19, his house, which had been on the market for 8 months with no offers, sold in 3 days, over asking price. Day 31, debt cleared. Not reduced, cleared. Then there's Margaret, 74, medical debt from her husband's cancer treatment, $96,000. She couldn't even say the number out loud without crying. Day 8 of the 33, she got a call from a non-profit she didn't know existed. They specialize in medical debt forgiveness. They reviewed her case. Day 22, they sent her a letter. Entire debt forgiven. Not negotiated, forgiven. You want to tell me that's coincidence? 3 people, 3 different debt amounts, 3 different circumstances, same 33 days, same result. That's not luck, that's law. Spiritual law. The kind that doesn't break. The kind that doesn't care what the economy is doing. The kind that responds to alignment, not effort. So here's what you're going to do, and I need you to listen carefully, because if you skip one step, you break the circuit. And if you break the circuit, the oil stops flowing. Step 1. Identify your oil. This is the thing you have that you've stopped valuing. It might be $5 in an old account. It might be a skill you haven't used in years. It might be a relationship you've neglected. It's small, it's overlooked, but it's yours. Write it down. Physically write it on paper, not your phone, paper. Because the act of writing engages your hand, which engages your heart, which engages heaven's attention. Step 2. Sanctify it. Take that small thing and speak over it. Use the Malachi verse I gave you earlier. Say it out loud. Say it like you believe it. Because the Hebrew word for word is davar, and it also means thing. Your words aren't describing reality. They're creating it. Step 3. Close the door. For the next 33 days, you stop talking about your debt. You stop complaining. You stop explaining your situation to people who can't help you. Every word you speak about the problem is a leak in your jar. Seal it. Tell one person, someone who will pray with you, not pity you. Then close the door. Step 4. Collect jars. Every day, you're going to do one small thing to create a container for blessing. It might be helping someone. It might be selling something. It might be applying for one job you're not sure you're qualified for. You're not trying to solve the whole problem. You're making space for heaven to move. Step 5. Expect the oil. This is where most people fail. They do the steps, but they don't expect anything to happen. And expectation isn't hope. Expectation is certainty. It's the difference between, I wonder if this will work, and I'm watching for how this will work. Write down what you expect. Be specific. Not, I hope my debt gets better. Write, by day 33, I will see a minimum of specific amount moved toward my freedom. Step 6. Document everything. Every small win, every unexpected check, every phone call that doesn't make sense. Write it down. Because on day 33, you're going to look back and you're going to see the trail of oil. And you're going to know it wasn't you. It was alignment. Now, let me tell you what's going to happen. Day 1 through 7, you're going to feel nothing. You're going to think this is foolish. You're going to want to quit. Don't. That's the 70 nations of doubt trying to stop the process before it starts. Day 8 through 14, you'll see small things. Coins on the ground. A refund you forgot about. Don't dismiss them. That's the oil starting to drip. Day 15 through 21, you'll see something bigger. A payment extension. A forgotten account. A gift from someone. This is the flow increasing. Day 22 through 33, you're going to see the kind of movement that makes no logical sense. And that's when you'll know, this isn't you. This is the mathematics of heaven responding to your alignment. But I have to warn you, this only works if you protect it. If you tell the wrong person, if you mock it, if you try to logic your way through it, you stop the flow. The widow didn't open the door until every jar was full. You don't celebrate until day 33 is complete. You don't explain what you're doing to people who worship at the altar of common sense. You close the door. You pour. You trust. Now here's what I want you to do right now. If you're serious about this, if you're tired of being buried, I want you to type 4 words in the comments. Just 4 words. Oil overflows my debt. That's it. Not a paragraph, not your testimony. Just those 4 words. Because when you type it, you're not just commenting, you're declaring. And declarations shift atmospheres. So type it now. Oil overflows my debt. And when you see someone else type it below yours, don't scroll past. Say Amen over their declaration. Because we're not just individuals here. We're a community of people who are choosing alignment over anxiety. Let me bring this home. You didn't find this video by accident. The algorithm didn't randomly suggest it. You're here because somewhere in the invisible realm, your breakthrough was already scheduled. And this message is the key that unlocks it. But keys don't work if you don't turn them. You can watch this video 17 times and stay stuck. Or you can watch it once, do what I've told you, and walk into your 33rd day a different person. I've been teaching Torah for 60 years. I've seen skeptics become believers. I've seen believers become witnesses. And I've seen witnesses become walking proof that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob still multiplies oil in closed rooms for people who trust him. You are next in line, not because you're special, because you're aligned. So here's my blessing over you today. And I'm going to pray it the way my Rabbi taught me, the way that pulls heaven's attention. May the God who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel shut the mouths of your creditors. May the God who made water flow from a rock make provision flow from impossibility. May the God who multiplied oil for a widow multiply every seed you've planted in secret. May every door of lack slam shut, and every door of abundance swing open. May your jars overflow not just to your need, but to your neighbor's need. And may you walk into day 33 and look back and know, beyond doubt, that you serve a God who still keeps his mathematical promises. Your soul is the blueprint. Your life is the construction. Shalom, my friend.